Hi, I'm Sten Vesterli, and this is Beneficial Intelligence, a new weekly podcast with stories and pragmatic information for CIOs and other IT leaders. This week, the cost of downtime. When one of the major cloud vendors have an outage event, then it becomes news. This week, there was an outage in the IBM cloud. Last month, it was Microsoft Azure. And in April, there was a Google Cloud outage. If you have an outage in your data center, fortunately, it does not reach the news unless something really serious happens. Now, that means that when you're comparing outages, people who are against cloud tend to make the obvious error in comparison, comparing the actual outages in your one data center with all the outages in all cloud vendors across all regions. Of course, that doesn't really make sense. But outages are important. They do have an impact on your decision on whether it makes sense to run something on premise or in the cloud. Now, you need to calculate the cost of downtime for your individual system to make a reasonable decision. Now, you want to involve the business in this decision. The business doesn't understand 99.9 and the difference to 99.99 uptime. The business understands money. So that's why you have to calculate downtime. You need to turn downtime into money. Now, when you calculate the cost of downtime, you need to think of the time interval. Different downtime intervals have different costs. You can't just say that if the cost of 1 hour of downtime is $100,000, it doesn't mean that 1 minute downtime costs you $17,000 or that a whole day of downtime will cost you $2.4 million. There's going to be a difference there. And you need to figure out in a number of intervals that make sense for each system what the cost of the downtime is. Now, when you have that, the cost of downtime in different intervals, then you can figure out what is the probability of downtime in these different intervals. When you're looking at the probability of downtime for a cloud vendor, make sure to read the fine print. Now, your cloud vendor is going to promise you 99 point, a whole string of nines in uptime. When you read the fine print, you'll figure out that they're excluding, by the way, there is some scheduled maintenance or there are various reasons why downtime won't count. So the downtime that you're going to see in real life is not going to be the 0.00001% that it might say in your contract, because the cloud vendor is excluding all kinds of things. When you have the probability of downtime and you have the cost of downtime, you can multiply these together, and that is a normal risk management math exercise. When you're comparing these two, when you're calculating, it might be the case that the risk of a long period of downtime is less when you're working on premise. When you're working on premise, your system administrators, your network administrators have access to all the gear. They have root access to the servers. They can unplug and plug in network cables. There's a lot of things that they can do in an on-premise installation that simply does not happen for you when there is a cloud outage. When there is a cloud outage, all you see is you get a status report. You might be able to call your cloud success manager, but that person can't tell you anything either, and you'll simply have to wait until your cloud vendor has fixed the problem. When you've calculated the cost of downtime for an on-premise installation and for a cloud installation, maybe you should also calculate the cost of a high availability architecture. I've seen several times that a high availability architecture is actually so expensive to run that the total cost, the cost of the system and the downtime, is actually higher for a high availability architecture. So for important systems, you might want to consider what is the total cost, the cost of running the system plus the cost of downtime. For a simple architecture with one instance, that you might be able to simply bring back up pretty quickly. Or if you need the added complexity of a high availability architecture, the added license cost, the added hardware cost, the added manpower cost to run it. So in some situations, you only have an on-premise or a cloud installation to choose between. In some situations, you might have a high availability architecture in the mix as well. But you need to calculate the cost of downtime so you can make rational decisions. Thank you for watching Beneficial Intelligence, a weekly podcast with stories and pragmatic information for CIOs and other IT leaders. If you like this content, please spread the word. If you have comments, please get in touch. See you next week.